What if one of the biggest stories in entertainment isn't about what was said, but about what was never said at all? For years, Justin Bieber was one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. Millions watched him grow from a young teenager posting videos online into a global superstar selling out stadiums around the world. Every achievement became front-page news. Every mistake became a headline. Every relationship became a topic of public debate. It felt like the entire world was watching his life unfold in real time. But behind the fame, behind the flashing cameras, behind the endless attention, there were always questions. Questions that never seemed to fully disappear. Questions that fans would occasionally revisit before eventually moving on. Until now. Because as one of the most talked about legal sagas in modern entertainment continues to unfold, old footage, forgotten interviews, and years-old interactions have suddenly returned to the spotlight. And people are looking at them very differently than they did before. The entertainment industry has always sold a dream of fame, a dream of success, a dream of unlimited opportunity. From the outside, it looks like a world where talented people are rewarded and celebrated. But every industry has a side the public rarely sees. The private conversations, the closed-door meetings, the relationships formed away from cameras, the moments that never make headlines. Most of the time, those moments remain invisible until something happens that causes people to look backward. And that's exactly what's happening now. As allegations and legal proceedings involving Diddy Combs became the center of international attention, social media users began digging through years of old content. Videos, interviews, award show appearances, behind-the-scenes footage, anything they could find. And among the thousands of clips being shared online, one name kept appearing over and over again: Justin Bieber. Almost immediately, old videos featuring Bieber and Combs started spreading across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and X. Some had been online for more than a decade. Others had barely attracted attention when they were first uploaded. But now millions of people were seeing them for the first time. And the reactions were very different. One particular video became impossible to ignore. The clip showed a teenage Justin Bieber spending time with Combs during what was described as a 48-hour experience together. At the time, nobody seemed particularly alarmed. In fact, many fans viewed it as exciting. A young artist being welcomed into the world of music by one of the industry's most influential figures. It looked like mentorship. It looked like opportunity. It looked like success. But years later, after everything that has happened, people started revisiting those same moments. And suddenly, viewers weren't seeing the same thing anymore. Every comment was analyzed. Every facial expression was discussed. Every interaction became a source of speculation. Some viewers insisted the clips revealed nothing unusual. Others argued they felt uncomfortable watching them now. The internet became divided. But one thing everyone agreed on was that the videos were attracting enormous attention. And that attention only grew as more footage surfaced. Additional clips showed interactions between Bieber and Combs at various points throughout Bieber's early career. Again, many of the moments appeared harmless on the surface. Yet people couldn't stop talking about them. Because context changes everything. A video that feels normal in one moment can feel entirely different years later when viewed through a new lens. Whether that interpretation is fair or not is another question entirely. But it's exactly what was happening. The more people watched, the more questions they had. And the more questions they had, the more theories appeared online. Soon, social media was flooded with speculation. Some people claimed Bieber had witnessed things. Others suggested he knew more than he ever publicly discussed. Many simply wondered whether there was a story the public had never heard. The truth? Nobody outside those involved knows. And that's what makes stories like this so powerful. The uncertainty. Because uncertainty creates curiosity. And curiosity keeps people searching for answers. For months, Justin Bieber remained largely silent as conversations intensified across social media. The speculation continued growing. Videos accumulated millions of views. Podcasts discussed the topic. Comment sections exploded with theories. Everyone seemed to have an opinion. Then something significant happened. Bieber's representatives finally responded. The statement immediately captured headlines. According to his team, Justin Bieber was not among Combs' victims. At the same time, the statement emphasized that attention should remain focused on individuals who had come forward with allegations. The response was direct, but it didn't stop the conversation. If anything, it intensified it. Supporters argued the statement should end the speculation immediately. Others continued examining every word. Why was it released now? Why address the rumors at this particular moment? What prompted the response? Those questions quickly became part of the discussion as well. And perhaps that's because this story touches on something much bigger than celebrity gossip. It's about power. It's about influence. It's about what happens when extremely young people enter environments controlled by adults with enormous authority. Think about it. Justin Bieber wasn't 25 years old when he became famous. He wasn't 30. He wasn't even old enough to drive. He was a teenager navigating an industry filled with executives, managers, producers, publicists, agents, and celebrities who had been operating in that world for decades. Imagine being placed into that environment almost overnight. Imagine suddenly becoming one of the most famous people on earth while still trying to figure out who you are. Most people never experience that level of pressure. Most people never have every mistake documented. Most people never have strangers discussing their lives every single day. Yet that became reality for Bieber before adulthood. That's why certain comments he's made throughout the years continue attracting attention, particularly comments about wanting to protect younger artists. In one emotional interview, Bieber spoke about how he wanted to be there for younger performers entering the industry. He appeared deeply affected while discussing the topic, but he never fully explained everything he meant. He never provided a detailed account. He never revealed specific experiences. And because of that, fans continue wondering, what exactly shaped those feelings? What did he experience during those formative years? What lessons did he learn that made him feel so strongly about protecting others? The public doesn't know, and perhaps it never will. But the questions remain, because stories involving childhood fame often force people to confront uncomfortable realities. The public tends to view fame as protection, success as security, money as freedom. But reality is often more complicated. Having millions of dollars doesn't mean you're immune to manipulation. Being famous doesn't guarantee good judgment. And being surrounded by powerful people doesn't automatically mean those people have your best interests at heart. Sometimes fame creates vulnerabilities that ordinary people never experience. The pressure to stay silent. The pressure to maintain relationships. The pressure to protect careers. The pressure to avoid controversy. Those pressures can become overwhelming, especially for someone still growing up. As public interest continued growing, another major question emerged. Could more celebrities become connected to the story? After all, Combs spent decades as one of the most influential figures in entertainment. He attended major events, hosted famous parties, worked with countless artists, maintained relationships throughout music, television, film, and business. His network extended almost everywhere, which naturally led people to wonder, who knew what? Who saw what? Who heard rumors? And perhaps most importantly, why didn't more people speak publicly if concerns existed? These aren't new questions. They've appeared in countless high-profile scandals throughout history. Whether involving entertainment, sports, politics, or business, the same pattern often emerges. People look backward and ask how warning signs could have been missed, how long concerns existed, and whether anyone could have intervened sooner. The answers are rarely simple, because real life rarely offers clear villains and heroes. Instead, it offers complicated situations involving power, fear, loyalty, ambition, and uncertainty. People often assume speaking out is easy, but history repeatedly shows that's not true, especially when influential people are involved, especially when careers are at stake, especially when reputations can be destroyed overnight. That's one reason these conversations resonate so strongly. They force people to think about uncomfortable realities, not just within entertainment, but everywhere. How often do people remain silent because they fear consequences? How often do organizations prioritize image over accountability? How often do individuals convince themselves something isn't their responsibility because someone else will handle it? Those questions extend far beyond Hollywood. And perhaps that's why millions continue following this story so closely. Because at its core, it isn't just about celebrities. It's about human nature. It's about power. It's about influence. It's about the choices people make when confronted with uncomfortable truths. For now, many questions remain unanswered. The legal process continues. New developments continue emerging. Rumors continue circulating. Facts continue being separated from speculation. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise sits a public eager for clarity. Whether that clarity ever arrives remains uncertain. But one thing is undeniable. People are looking at the entertainment industry differently than they were a few years ago. They're asking harder questions. They're challenging old assumptions. They're paying closer attention to stories that once might have been dismissed. And perhaps that's the most significant change of all. Because sometimes the biggest revelations aren't the ones that provide answers. Sometimes the biggest revelations are the ones that force people to start asking questions they never considered before. Questions about power. Questions about responsibility. Questions about what happens behind closed doors when nobody thinks the public is watching. As this story continues unfolding, millions will continue searching for answers. Some will focus on the headlines. Others will focus on the rumors. But beneath all of it lies a much deeper conversation. A conversation about fame. A conversation about influence. A conversation about what people are willing to ignore when success is involved. And until every question has been answered, one reality remains impossible to escape. The world may have watched Justin Bieber grow up in public, but there are still chapters of that story that nobody fully understands. And sometimes the most important stories aren't the ones hidden from the cameras. They're the ones hiding in plain sight the entire time.